listening to another episode of A Blind Insight with me, Simon Hill, and my right-hand man, Billy Spateman.
Good afternoon.
How are we doing? You all right?
Yeah, not bad, not bad.
Well, so while I was doing my trek across the country, which I'm going to talk about, what's been happening with you?
We've busking for I can't give the amount out because we don't do that till the end of a month. But Busking for Charity has sort of really kicked in, and also this coming Sunday, myself and David from one of our charities, Action Art, will be. For some reason, walking up and down Rowley Bunk as many times as we can in 3 or 4 hours. And other folks are just coming and doing the odd one. And we've got sponsorship all over the place. We had a big sponsorship, a sponsor come in from a chap called Paul Bennett, who's from Anson Solicitors, who was going to do the walk with us, the climb. But he's sort of got lung COVID that's affected his breathing, so he doesn't think that he should risk it really. But he's given us a really substantial donation that we're not going to reveal. But it's going really, really well, and we've got other events all over the place. I think we're at Longwood Boathouse this coming Saturday, doing something for the Canal Society, and then the climb on Sunday. So this week will be particularly busy because we'll be out on the streets as well, raising some money.
Yeah, Canal Society. Well, my tranquil ideas of canal walking have been damaged somewhat from my recent experience. But
right.
Yeah, but
what was that then?
Well, during the walk, so I'll come on to it. But obviously, with me, aside from the walk, then the main event over the weekend was the first leg of the playoff semi-final with Albion.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So that was a.
Well, I only read the report. I haven't spoken to my son-in-law because he's a Baggish supporter.
Yeah.
I only read the report, and it just said both games were dire, weren't they? Both playoff games were really dire. Both of them were 0-0, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, I didn't because the first one kicked off at 12 o'clock and we kicked off at 2:15, so I didn't follow the first one at all. But the game, it was a decent game. 0-0 doesn't sort of do it justice. There was both sides had a couple of really good chances each, but there was some good stuff played, and in the end, obviously, you want to be ideally taking a lead if you can into the second leg if you're away from home, but it's 0-0 half time basically, so it's going to be different.
How have the games gone this season between them?
Well, Southampton have done the double over us.
Oh, right.
Only one of 3 teams that have managed it, but back in, I think it was November, we played down there away. We were the better side and were unfortunate to lose. And then we played them at home not too long ago, actually, 2 or 3 months ago, and they really did a number on us that time. So yeah, on paper they're favourites, and obviously they'll certainly, now they're at home, they'll be favourites again. But the pressure's on them as far as I'm concerned. That if we can go there and not give them anything early on, keep them quiet, frustrate the crowd, quieten the atmosphere, then the crowd will get frustrated, and that can all play into our hands.
Let's ask you a footy question, because it's come from listening to the radio the other night when City were playing Tottenham.
Oh yeah,
and they were interviewing, Tottenham supporters, and they go, "Oh yeah, I want us to get thrashed because we don't want Arsenal to win." Now, if it was the Baggies and Wolves, and there was a crucial game that somebody was playing that would tip it one way or another, you wouldn't want your team to lose, just so the other team couldn't win the championship or whatever it was. It just seemed you went a supporter, and I think the manager got really annoyed, didn't he? And saying, there's something underlying that's going wrong here if supporters can think that.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about this with a friend of mine yesterday, funny enough, and saying that for me, at the end of the day, first and foremost, you want your team to succeed.
Yeah.
Whatever, and especially in Tottenham's case, because they were still trying to get into the Champions League. So
exactly.
It's not like there was nothing riding on it for them.
No.
So, now, for me, first and foremost, you want your team to succeed, whatever the byproduct of that is, so be it. But first and foremost, you don't want your team to lose or do badly just to stop your local rivals succeeding. That's just yeah, I don't understand it.
No, I couldn't understand the attitude of some of them really to say no. We want to lose today. We don't want Arsenal to win the Premiership. Well, it's north south, isn't it? So as long as it was a London club, what did it matter? But obviously the rivalry goes beyond a sporting rivalry in a way, don't it?
Well, that's, I mean, and again, we see it around here with some people. It's worrying in a way, the hatred almost that it is, or the rival. It's beyond rivalry. It's in some places, and so yeah, I don't understand it, and it's taking it too far. And anyway, I mean, so you lose, but then Arsenal still go and win the title anyway. So it's I didn't
And
understand it.
you don't qualify for the Champions League, so you lost both ways.
So what have you gained?
Yeah.
It's
strange, very very
Army
strange, very strange.
So well, it is football related, as in, so my obviously hoping to be going back to Wembley. I can't remember what the date is now, the final's on, but obviously I headed off there not 2 Mondays ago, and so it was an early start, and then we got down to Wembley about 9 o'clock, and then talk about palaver. I mean, all we wanted to do was get in and sort of stand by the pitch and do a bit of a photo and a send off, and then start walking. It took we spent about an hour. First of all, they wouldn't let us in, and then
Where was the actual starting point then?
At Wembley Stadium.
Oh, Wembley, yeah.
So there was about an hour of faffing around to get into Wembley for us to just do this picture and bit on the side of the pitch. So by the time we started walking, I mean, bear in mind we had something like 21 miles to cover in the first day, so we didn't get walking till about 10:30. So we set off from Wembley and through London, and then out to the next place of recognition for me was Watford. We walked past Vicarage Road, the football ground there, and then onto Canals, and it was so the first day was tough, but everybody got through it. It was dry, which was good. And then we got to the hotel, and the staff were, shall we say, not greatly accommodating for our eating arrangements. So we just walked 21 miles. All we want to do is get changed, have something to eat, go to bed, pretty much. And they say, right, well, 4 of you can eat now, 4 of you can eat at 8 o'clock, 4 of you can eat at 8:30. And
really?
So, yeah, okay. So I went in with the first group, because I thought, I'll just eat now and go and, get showered or whatever afterwards.
Yeah.
So we're there, and the place is virtually empty. Like, what are they on about? There's no reason why we couldn't all just come in and eat. So that was a frustrating end to the day. Then overnight, one of the lads had a funny turn, but it seemed like he hadn't been drinking enough, so he was dehydrated, so he had to be taken to A&E. So 2 or 3 of the staff were up all night with him. So the next morning, of course, they'd had no sleep, so they were not able to walk. So they went to bed basically for the morning. And the lad was sent home. So we were 1 down after day 1. I then unfortunately figured out that I knew my feet I knew I'd got them at the end of the first day, but I hoped they'd maybe healed a bit overnight. But I had blisters on both the balls of my feet. And
no!
So I was like, just walking around, any walking was hurt. I was like, this is going to be hard. So I, plasters and 2 pairs of socks and whatever. I thought, I'll try. And then, so we set off again, but the path was we were on canal. But this whole day was about 27, 28 miles all along the Grand Union Canal.
Blimey!
So we set off, and it was just straight away. I just, I can't, because of course not only is it hurting, you can't get up any speed. So I was like, no, this is stupid. So I called it a day on Tuesday, and then hoped that they'd heal enough and I'd be able to go again on the Wednesday. Didn't pan out, so ended up having to sit out the Wednesday. But we had Andy Johnson with us, former Albion player, and he was by Wednesday he was also struggling as well. So he was on the bus with me, and a lot of the meeting points happened to be pubs. So while we were waiting for the walkers, it was like, may as well have a pint.
Might as well have a pint, yeah.
So yeah, it was frustrated not being able to walk, but there was entertainment on hand. So Wednesday was sorry, I missed out the Tuesday night. The food situation was even better then, because we got there, everything seemed fine. They said come down for dinner when you're ready. So we didn't get there till about 8 o'clock, because that was a long day of walking. Get down for dinner and discover that the kitchen's closed, so there's no food at all. So there was some places nearby which some people went off to, but me and the lad I was rooming with just, I don't want to walk anymore. So we just ordered the Domino's, and God, forget it. So
were your hotels all with the same chain, or?
Yeah, well, it was funny because these were Premier Inns, and it was announced either on the Monday or the Tuesday about they were cutting jobs in terms of to closing down their restaurants, and so we wondered whether that was something to do with it, why the staff had suddenly become a bit reluctant to be accommodating, so then Wednesday was entertaining, but then Thursday morning I felt a bit better, so I thought, I think I'll give it a go. So I set off on the Thursday morning once again on canals, and started off all right, and then a few minutes in it, the path there was no path, and it was grass and mud and slippy. And I mean, thank God it wasn't raining, because it would have been utterly even more treacherous. And the first stint was about 7 miles. So I'm walking along, but it's just like, it was such slow going, because you're constantly slipping and having to, sometimes having to go around mud or getting stuck in mud. And then on more than one occasion, I was having to sort of walk sideways to, because the edge of the canal was right there. And it's like, well, so I was there, and my guide was sort of standing between me and the canal. I was thinking, if one of us slips here, we're in.
Yeah, we're in.
It's that treacherous. And it was just, so apart from being physically, it was just mentally exhausting. Having to constantly worry about where your feet were going. And so I got to the end of the 7 miles. I said, this is stupid. There's nothing enjoyable or challenging about this. It's just, I'm just scared of falling in all the blooming time. So I then sat out the next stint, and I did the stints that were on roads the rest of the day. So I did about 17 or 18 miles in the end on the Thursday. But it was frustrating, but I felt like I was able to walk, but I just didn't want to keep walking over such difficult terrain. So I said this isn't how it was sold. It should have been called the blind cross country assault course, not the blind walk.
Not one of them Ironman contests, isn't it?
It was, certainly not just the walk. It was more than that. But yeah, so it was a long day on Thursday as well. The Friday we were assured that it was still along some canals, but we were walking from Warwick to Birmingham basically on the Friday. And we were told that the terrain was better. So set off again, and it was for the first sort of while, but then eventually we got to the first stop, which was about after 5 miles, and then we set off again after drinks or whatever, and then went down this I've never experienced, I mean, obviously going along canals you expect bridges and tunnels and things, but I've not been down anything like this. It was, so to get back down onto the canal after we'd gone onto a bridge to meet the support bus, so we were going down this tunnel, and it was sloping downwards in a tunnel, apparently dark. And I said to the lad who was guiding me, I said, who's guiding who here? Can you see anything? And so we'll go down, and of course, the floors, there was water dripping from somewhere, so the floor was sleeping. Like, good God, someone, how's this going to end? And so, and it just seemed to go on for ages, so going down, and I think at one point someone at the front said, "I'm going, hang on a minute, I can't see a thing here." So we literally stopped and tried to figure it out. So I thought, God, it's like just the only thing I kept thinking a Peaky Blinder was about to jump out on us or something at some point. So yeah,
And you usually find those inclines down to the cuts. They make them out of that they don't like cobblestone brick. So once there's a bit of water on them, they're absolutely dead.
I say there's no grip, and of course if you, so yeah, it was so disconcerting. But anyway, we made it down there without any disaster. So but then unfortunately we ended up on again. It was all that. By this point it was out in the all out in the country. I don't know. I'm not sure which canal it would have been by this point, but walking along, and it's like we ended up walking along this path, but it wasn't even wide enough for two people. So I was having to sort of follow along behind my guide with my hand on his backpack, and that's difficult as well because you can't sort of stride out properly because you're always conscious about kicking them on the on the legs, and this path of course was not exactly flat, and it was just basically where people's feet had worn it away, through the grass and stuff. So and again, and so we just went on. This stint was about 7 miles, and we didn't even see a boat with it, all along this bit. So one of the most quietest and deserted bits of canal I've ever experienced. But so we did that, and then after that point again, I was like, oh, I can't do any more of this right now. But I knew there was another stints coming up later that were on the road, so I was like, okay, I'll step out the next stint, which was only about sort of 4 miles to Solihull, and then I joined in the last bit, which was, well, first of all, it was 2 or 3 miles around Solihull, and anyway, we're walking along with me and my guide, and the rule was supposed to be that if whoever was at the front of the group, because obviously people walk at different paces, but whoever was at the front of the group, if they took a turning, they stopped and made sure everybody knew that to turn
where you were going.
So anyway, walking along, and we're just like, he suddenly says, "Oh, there's no one in front of us now. I wonder if we," So we carried on a bit. Anyway, so eventually he rings them, and they say, "Oh, we turned off." Oh, so we'd literally covered about an extra mile in the end because.
Oh, blimey!
And so yeah, I ended up doing an extra mile around. I think it was Alton rather than Solihull, but yeah, so we did that, and then basically the last bit was walking into Birmingham. So that was, by then you're feeling the sounds and smells of home. So it was, and obviously it was on the streets by now. So it was back to traffic and things to worry about, but not at least it was proper stuff to walk on. So.
And did you get there on time? And did they do what they you wanted them to do? Let you on the pitch and all that. And
well, yeah, that was the Saturday. So we finished on the Friday, and then it's about 4 miles to the stadium from the centre of Birmingham. So we walked that on the Saturday morning. That was really good. People came to join us for it, and again, it was walking along the canal basically from the Gas Street Basin to Smethwick, but the paths were fine, everything. So we had music. We don't know what the locals thought because we had music playing, and then Andy Johnson was at the front with Blind Dave, and when somebody was coming towards us, shouted a warning. So if it was someone on a bike, it'd be bike, and then if it was a jogger or walker, and then so he said that once, and as the guy walked past me, he said, "Did I hear that right?" So God knows what the locals thought was going on, but yeah. So we got there, and then we got there about half an hour, 45 minutes before kick-off, and went into the fan zone, and so we got welcome there, and then obviously went into we actually ended up getting sort of almost two laps of the pitch because we went in on the east stand side of the ground and had to get across to the other side to where we were sitting, and so people applauded us as we walked round to there, and then obviously I mean, not everybody was Albion fans, but those of us that were bothered obviously then got engrossed in the game, and then we scored right on half time, which I think helped as well, because if we'd have been losing, or if people would have gone off to have a drink or whatever and not stuck around, but yeah, we then went down, and they we went round did a lap of the pitch, and everybody applauded. So, and then obviously Albion went on to win the game and get in the playoffs. So it would have been a very
I suppose different atmosphere if they hadn't.
Well,
really.
it would have been a great anticlimax to the week for me if that had gone wrong. So
yeah. And did you obviously you were trying to raise money? Did you? How much did you raise? Or
yeah, so it was to raise money for the foundation, but specifically for the blind football project. So to assist with paying for travel and equipment and so on. But they haven't said what the target was 30,000, and they haven't said yet whether we met that or not. But I myself, I was most of us were given a target of raising 600, and I happily managed to get about 630, which with a week to go, I didn't think in a million years would happen. So I'm glad I achieved that target and did the bit for financially. So yeah, it was obviously
obviously an experience. Did anybody plan? I presume they planned the route but they never checked the state of wherever you was going to be walking. It was just like, I presume, a paper plan thing, or did they go out first and say, well, we're going to walk from here to here, or this is going to be difficult?
Well, no. Well, we were told that it had been wrecked, as in on road and on bike. But I mean, how on earth? I mean, don't get me wrong. We saw people cycling, but some of the bits. I mean, how do you cycle on a canal where it's literally just grass and no path? And
yeah.
So I don't know. So I was sceptical, shall we say, that had been wrecked properly or fully. But yeah, they didn't. It had been wrecked, but like I said, they didn't, because a bit beforehand. One of the discussions was, do you walk it in trainers or boots or whatever? And because when I did the previous one from Liverpool 10 years ago, I did that in boots, and then, when I don't really remember getting blisters, to be honest, but they did hurt a bit. And you think, well, if you're on roads and stuff, is it really necessary? But I do wish that I'd had my boots with me to have done some of the cross country bits, because trainers were just like, you really didn't feel like trainers were the right thing to be wearing. But yeah, it is, and they'd planned it out so like I said, each day was broken down, so place to place, and then it was broken down to segments, like I say, of around 4 miles to 7 miles usually, and then you'd meet with the support bus and have drink and refreshment, and then carry on the next stint. So,
and how many did it all together? How many team, like individuals all together, walked?
It fluctuated a bit, because we had some people who joined us for a day and this, that, and the other. But there was, I think, it was 16 regulars that were there the whole way through. Like I say, Blind Dave, of all the things that he's done, he ended up having to go to a walk-in centre on the Thursday morning, because his feet were was that badly battered. So he
really, and after all the stuff, all the walks and marathons he's done,
so it was tough going.
That's surprising. Isn't it?
So he had to sit out the last couple of days. So that puts things into a bit of perspective. Even people that have done massive challenges before were struggled. So
So do you think that was because of the sort of the underfoot conditions were that bad?
Well, I guess so.
Caused the problem.
Well, he seemed to think so, and like I say, because it was literally, like I say, I mean, the one day, certainly the whole way, 30 miles, all on canals. So your feet. I mean, because it's on stones and uneven stuff, and constantly, twisting your ankles this way and the other, and rubbing your feet, the sides of your feet and everything. So yeah, I guess it must have been the terrain, or just the constant, the amount of miles. I mean, because 28, 30 miles is a long way on any terrain, but when you're putting your feet under such trauma constantly, going, twisting and turning and on rough surfaces. So yeah, so like I said, there was 3 people who managed to do the whole way, and we we just concluded that they weren't human. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
And I suppose because you've got to walk with somebody else, you overcompensate. Whereas if the sighted person can see what's coming up, but you have to overcompensate by whoever you're walking with does, doesn't it? So it's in a way it's a double whammy, isn't it?
Well, the thing is, funny enough, if he was talked about this in a way, because obviously because you're connected, you're holding on to the person, so you're holding on to them, and they've got you holding on to them, so you sort of end up you don't walk the same as you would do if you're just walking on your own, swinging your arms or whatever you do. So when I was walking with people, I sort of said let's swap over a bit so you can free your other arm for a bit and loosen your shoulder again. But we were saying, especially along the difficult terrain, you sort of end up leaning on each other almost to sort of support each other, or they're trying to support you because of the uneven ground. And so yeah, it's not doing it for a bit is one thing, but doing it mile after mile, and like I say, particularly when you're holding on behind, so you're having to walk a full arm's length, you're clinging onto them with your hand at arm's length away, but then of course you can't sort of stride out properly because you'd be kicking the back of their heel, and it's a very sort of stuttering and unnatural way to walk. So yeah, it's difficult to.
And I suppose if they stumble, then you don't know they've stumbled, so it's like, oh blimey, what's going on here? Like,
well, that's it. Well, you just have to you have to have your wits about you as well. But that's what I mean. But it's one of those examples where the mental concentration, because you can't just see, you've got no information coming through your eyes about what's in front of you, what's happening. You're having to just pick up whatever you can, and so mentally trying to spot danger and feel what's going on under your feet literally all the time is just it adds an extra element to the challenge.
I suppose you think twice when if they say we'll do another, and go, well, yeah.
I'd want more clarity on exactly what the
what the itinerary and stuff was.
Because like I said, it's one thing, but you expect it to be difficult, but you just want to make sure you're equipped properly. And like I said, I just didn't feel like I wish I'd have had my walking boots for the cross country stuff, because I didn't feel properly equipped to do that bit. But yeah, so that was the walk. Made it home in one piece and took about it. I mean, which I knew it would be because when I've done these things before. But it's funny. But apart from the physical thing, you then have to adapt to going back into your normal routine, because all of a sudden, you've had this routine and camaraderie, and had a goal, sort of, suddenly your day sort of mapped out for you, then all of a sudden you're thrown back into so-called normal stuff. So there's as well as the physical thing, it's getting your head back into the normal life routine, which is not always easy. And for me, living alone, so I came back to having been around people constantly for a week. You then come back to an empty house, and you're like, oh, no one to talk to now.
Yeah.
So yeah, but no, it was a really good experience. Obviously, emotional ups and downs, which I knew there would be. And obviously I wished I could have walked more, but I knew as well there's no point breaking yourself, because if you push yourself too far, then you'll end up not having to do any of it. So
yeah, long term it would be a worse scenario, wouldn't it?
But I mean, I'm a bit like your challenge with the hill. It's
well, I know David from Action Art. He's just done the London Marathon, so obviously he's a pretty fit lad.
Yeah,
and he's about half my age. But even he said that his ankles and his knees are still suffering from the marathon, and and again, because it's not a constant incline, and it's all surfaces are all over the place. It ain't like walking up a road, on a pavement. It's so different, because your right foot. I mean, I've been up and down it a few times just practicing, and your right foot can be higher than your left foot when you're walking, and then it'll change pretty sharpish, and then there's a dip, and then there's another steep slope. So I think until we start, all I've decided of is to get in a rhythm and just keep to the rhythm. Don't try and go any faster, don't go any slower, And on the way down, just make sure you don't jar yourself, because you got to go up and down. Don't jar yourself when you're coming down.
Well, that's the thing, and again, coming down in a way is, especially if you've been going up a long hill, all of a sudden it takes a few steps for your body, because you almost end up jarring because you've been so sort of slow and steady at one angle. All of a sudden, it's a completely different. You've got gravity working with you, and and if you're not careful, you can jolt your ankle, or so yeah, it is you have to adjust your step or your walking style to go downhill all of a sudden. So it's
in many respects it's easier going up. I mean, easier in the sense that you're going against the grain, so you can control that. And once you've got that, I found when I've been out just having a go, once you've got that aching out your bones and your muscles, and they warm up, then you don't really feel your muscles at all in terms of a strain. You just get into that rhythm. That's the important thing.
And that's like what I was saying about why it was so frustrating walking along the canals with the difficult terrain underfoot, because you can't, if you can get into a rhythm, you just like 1 2 1 2, and you switch off, and you can switch off and think about other things. But if you're having to concentrate on every single step and every you're going slow, so that frustrates you, and then so if you can get into a rhythm and keep to it, and and like I said, they say don't try and keep up with other people, just do what feels good for you, and most of the time you end up going faster than you think, so because you just get into a routine. But yeah, so it's but yeah, obviously hills of any is a different challenge to running miles on the flat road. So
yeah, I mean, I used to do marathons when I was younger, and I just found them psychologically they're quite tough. From the physical point of view, they were fine, but it was just
boring.
Yeah,
I
used to say I don't know why people do millions of them, because they're really boring.
Well, it's not just. I first I had to go to a half marathon when I was about 20 or something. So about 20 years ago, and just, I mean, it on the day it's one thing, because you've got the adrenaline, the atmosphere, the crowds, and everything, but you've got to basically do all the training, and it's just God, it's just utterly mind-numbing. Just going and running miles and miles and I mean, I guess some people say it's their escape and everything and all the rest of it, but and
you have to be careful it doesn't become a drug as such, because I remember when I was training, I was working in Wolverhampton at the time, and we lived in Albury, and when I was working training for Sandwell Marathon, I'd run home virtually, run back to Wolverhampton, and then run back home, so I'd be getting back 8 o'clock, 8:30 at night. But then if you missed a day, you felt guilty because you were missing a day.
Yeah.
And my brother, who was, again, a pretty fit kid, he'd say, no, your rest days are more important than your training days, so you can replenish. But you did feel guilty that you hadn't been out,
Yeah.
You'd wake up and you think, Wednesday, it's my day off. And then about half an hour later, you think, well, I could just go for one run. And he used to say, no, you ain't going out. It's any end of story. You're not going today.
No, unfortunately or fortunately, I've never struggled with that thing. It's getting myself to. I really struggle to motivate myself to train on my own. If I'm doing it with a group or someone else, then that helps. But I'd a rest day. I'd have no trouble taking a rest day. I'm completely the opposite. But yeah, some people, it seems to be. It's what gets it's an addiction, isn't it? It's their thing that they do it just day after day. It's not even for anything particular. They just it's what they do and what their escape is. But I mean, but talking of challenges, I'm hoping, because I've known him for years, Blind Dave Healy, but obviously spent a bit of time with him. But he's doing another challenge later in the year, a cycling challenge. Where he's cycling the Western Front from Switzerland to Belgium. So I'm going to ask him if he'll come on join us for a chat about that. So
yeah. So is that supported by the Baggies then? His challenges.
It's all for I don't know exactly how I mean the amount that they do. I mean, I don't know how you can keep going back to the same people trying to raise money. They must get to the point where they say, oh, no, you've had enough now. But yeah, he does the challenges, and as far as I'm aware, it's all to raise money for the foundation, where other people do them with him. So I presume they bring sponsorship with them, or And sometimes, like with us, we had a couple of lads from HSBC doing the walk with us, and so HSBC have given a fair bit. So it's all sort of that sort of stuff. I don't know exactly where all the money comes from, or whether you know whether he gets sponsored specifically, or how it works exactly. But yeah, he's an ambassador for the foundation basically. So all the things he does is with the aim of raising money for them.
So presumably he'd be tandem then. If it's a cycle thing, it'd be tandem, which is what Nick, the guest you're trying to get in, Nick used to tandem cycle, and that's fascinating because he used to do it in velodromes as well. And I used to. One of the questions was, well, how do you gauge when you're going up and when you're not going up? And he said, you just get a sense of the gravity and the weight on your body, so you can assess when to come down and when to go up.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's one of those things. Unfortunately, I enjoy cycling. I've got my own tandem, but unfortunately, it's one of those things you can't just jump on and go on your own. You need someone that's available and willing to go with you. But yeah, I've never done it in a velodrome, so yeah, I'm interested to hear about that from him. But yeah, so and hang on, I would like to maybe have a crack at one of the cycle challenges that. But again, as long as I get the proper preparation in, so. But yeah, so I'm hoping to get Blind Dave in for a chat, and as you say, Nick in a couple of weeks, and then also I was hoping to get it ready for this show, but unfortunately the times didn't quite work out. But this week is actually World Retinoblastoma Awareness Week, and retinoblastoma is it's cancer of the eye, which is what caused me to lose my eyes. So obviously a subject close to my heart. So I'm going to be having a chat with the chief executive of the Childhood Eye Cancer Trust.
Really?
And get him to explain about retinoblastoma and what parents should be looking out for in their young children. And what support and advice is available. So that I'll aim to put that on the next show, which will be in a week or two's time.
So is it something that you could recognise that something's going wrong? I mean, I suppose when we were kids, they used to come and test your eyes, didn't they? And then you'd get, if you had a lazy eye, they'd put a patch over it and all that. So does that still happen in schools? Do they still do the eye tests, or?
I don't know actually, but what tends to be well, the thing is, because often with retinoblastoma, as was in my own case, it strikes way before you're even at school, or it can do.
Yeah, it's very early.
Like with me, it was when I was 6 months. So apparently, like one of the 10 telltale signs is seen. They describe it as a glint or a sort of bright patch in the eye. So it's, I mean, presumably it's noticeable. Like I say, I wouldn't know how to describe it myself, but like I say, it can be, literally when the child's only months old. So, and I think, with cancer, it's kind of, I mean, I think people are aware, obviously, it gets people of, all sorts of ages, but I think people sort of forget or maybe aren't even aware that it isn't just, adults or middle-aged or old people. It can get us at any age.
At any age, yeah.
So it is something that parents need to be. I can't. I mean, obviously, I'll get the statistics when I speak to Richard. But yeah, it's certainly. I mean, and obviously, treatment's improved over the years since I had it and everything. So yeah, and it doesn't always result in losing your eyes. I know people who've had it and they, have still got full sight in one eye or whatever it may be. So, but obviously if it doesn't get treated, then it can obviously be very bad. Well, I hope you found my stories about the walk interesting and entertaining. It was certainly a memorable experience, that's for sure. So, as I said, next week I'll be talking to the Chief Executive of the Childhood Eye Cancer Trust about retinoblastoma, the signs to look out for, and what support and treatment is available. So, join us for that. And in the meantime, if you would like to get in touch with any questions, comments, or subjects you'd like me to discuss on the show, be it an insane story or a topic for Comeback Common Sense, then get in touch via email simonhill_6@hotmail.com. And also, if you want to listen to the show in full, including the songs, then go to the Black Country Radio website and click on Black Country Extra. The show goes out on Fridays at 5 o'clock, but you can listen on demand via going to the Black Country Extra on demand page and clicking on A Blind Insight. So, until the next time, stay sane.